Welcome back to part 2 of our cooking series as we do an experiment to try cooking ribs using a toaster oven running off I think that's a 3,000 watt inverter and a battery bank of 250 usable amp hours and a solar array of 1,000 watts, which isn't enough to run the system. And out of that 1,000, I think I'm only getting like 500 to 700 at the most of usable wattage. So the toaster oven, I think, uses about 1,800 watts. So we're going to be going into the batteries. And the question is it going to be enough to cook the ribs? And while we're cooking that on the toaster oven, we're also going to be cooking using a butane stove. Essentially, I cut the rack of ribs up into individual pieces as best as I could. Thankfully, I'm in the RV with running water and able to clean and get everything organized. So I started to clean up the kitchen area here so I can cook. And then while the food's cooking, the plan will be to work on the rest of the RV, which is a mess right now. So hopefully by the end of this video, we'll not only have good food to eat, but also a usable RV. Because right now, this is a mess. You can see the boat there for my kid and blah, 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 blah. This mess was made by me just a few days ago. You can see computer parts and stuff because I'm in the middle of building a computer network inside the RV to play classic old games like Doom and Diablo and whatnot. But anyhow, we'll deal with that on future episodes. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and season our ribs like we normally do using, this is what we use. We use basically Badia. The Badia complete seasoning. And minced onion and soy sauce. That's pretty much it. I put the soy sauce in the cup just so you can see how much I'm using to try to flavor everything. We'll see how much it takes to actually season everything. So what I'm going to do is just pour the Badia liberally all over the ribs here. Normally people marinate their ribs like, overnight or whatever. I don't bother. Because of the cooking situation, and also I've been cooking this way for a couple of years inside the van. Like what I'm making here, I can actually make inside the van. Little Blue, the minivan. If you watch like the older episodes where I was working as a knife salesman, traveling knife salesman, you'll see me cook ribs like this, exactly like this, using the rice cooker inside the RV running off the inverter cooking system. So it is possible to cook ribs like this. Let me try to pour this on here. Using 300 watt inverter inside a rice cooker. So that's what I would do if I was living in a minivan and traveling in a minivan. But because we have access to the RV and the largest solar array and everything, well, it looks like I used up all of that. So what we're gonna do is put that in, close the thing. And here's the moment of truth. We're going to try to start this thing up. I've got it set at 450 degrees, which is kind of high on broil. And let's try it. Let's try it for a few minutes and see how it does. So we're going to go to, what is this? Let's set it for 30 minutes. And it did come on. Let's take a look and see we're running totally off solar right now and battery bank. You can see it is up to 4 notches on the power level of this Jupiter 3,000 watt inverter, which I bought from Harbor Freight. Originally I had a 2,000 watt inverter and I traded it for a 3,000 watt. They actually let me upgrade. So that was nice of Harbor Freight. I do recommend business with them because of their liberal, at least the one here in Brevard County in Melbourne. They let me trade my 2,000 watt inverter without a receipt. I couldn't find the receipt, and upgrade to a 3,000 watt inverter. And because I hadn't really used the 2,000, I hooked it up and then tried to run the air conditioning, the built-in air conditioning off the inverter, and it was not enough. So you need more than 2,000 watts to run this. I think it's about a 10,000 BTU air conditioning unit. You need at least 3,000 watts. So I did upgrade to the 3,000 watts. That was cool. And I was able to run this air conditioning unit. The problem you have then is it doesn't last very long. It runs out really fast. So to run air conditioning like that, you would need like literally 2,000 or 3,000 watts of solar panels and about 2,000 or 3,000 amp hours of battery storage. I only have like 500 with 250 usable, I think. 500 or 600 with 250 usable. So we are cooking here. That is already cooking. I'm going to start this cooking, and then this I'm going to cover up, and I'll probably cook it on the stove because I'm pretty sure I'm going to use up all my battery power, and the system will need time to recharge. Now, the good thing about it is a sunny day outside. I don't know if you can see how sunny it is out there, so I'm getting a lot of sun right now. So even though the system is draining the battery and the solar, it's recharging. You can see it's already pretty low here. It says 12.3 and 12.8. 12.8 on that charger panel, 12.2. So it's dropping pretty fast. If it starts beeping, then we know that it's using too much power. It's not going to happen. Oh, I don't have enough solar panels and enough battery bank to make it last. So if the system starts beeping, I have to shut it off, and I'll probably have to finish cooking it on here. So, because this is using 1,800 watts, mind you. That's more, I think that's more than the air conditioning unit here. So what we're going to do is season this here too. We're going to season the pan version. Those of you who've been missing the Cooking with Denoy episodes. And you know what I forgot to add on the other one? I forgot to put these. This is my chopped onions. It's not critical, but I think it adds a little extra zing to it. I'm not going to bother adding it to the first batch. So this is basically badia, chopped onions. I'm going to put in a little bit more badia. Because normally I flip it over and I flavor both sides, but I'm just going to flavor one side. I'm being pretty lazy today. And we're going to need soy sauce. So I used up that whole thing. So I'm going to pour some on here. Just splash it everywhere. The soy sauce is like salty. And we'll add like the salt content. Okay, I think that's enough. So we got salt. We got everything on there. And it's time to get that thing cooking. So what we're going to do is turn this guy on, push the lever down, turn on high heat. You can see it is heating up. And we're going to bake it by putting a lid on it. Now normally you could run a fan, you could run your overhead fan here, but I'm not going to bother because I've got I'm going to open up the windows here by the way, but I got the doors open. I'm going to have the vehicle totally aired out. And the reason I'm not running the fan is because it'll use up electricity, which is, right now I'm pushing it towards this, because this is an extreme experiment to see how well this cooks right here. So this other rib here, the ribs that are sitting out here, that I have just sitting here, I'm going to cover these up and cook these later. So stay tuned for all that. Alright, we're kind of wasting electricity by opening this up and letting some of the heat escape. But I thought I would go ahead and sprinkle. I don't know if I did sprinkle it. I'm looking on there and I think I see some already on there. So maybe I did sprinkle it. But I'm going to sprinkle this on there because I think it's the minced onions does make a difference in flavor. And since we have a little bit of leftover soy sauce, go ahead and use it all up. So I'm going to push that back in. Doesn't that look so good right there? And it's working totally off solar and battery bank. So I've cleaned this up a little bit, this area, and we put the leftover ribs inside the cooler, which had ice in here, but this is no longer ice. It's from yesterday. So it's still cool, but not frozen. I may pick up some more ice today, but I doubt it. I'm just going to make do without the ice today, because I'm not really living in the RV right now. I'm just going to be cleaning it up. So we're going to let this continue to cook. This is cooking. You can see the, I don't know if you can hear the whining coming from this. It actually went down to 1, 2, 3 instead of 4 bars. But it is using the battery up. The battery meter here says 12 now. That's a cheap $15 PWM charge controller. And I think it's, yeah, and I think this is MPPT. I think it's a better one, which is this more expensive one here. It's like $130, $160 charge controller. And it says 12.6 on that. So power is coming in. It is using up a lot of my battery power. Let's see what the meter here says on the other inverter that's not being used. It says 11.4, so it is low. It's using a lot of the power, as I suspected it would. Now, I'm going to shut this off to save a little bit of power. I'm going to shut off the red one. I'll leave it on, that way I can just monitor it, even though it's using up more power to run an inverter, even though I'm not using power from that inverter. I'm using it from the second one, which doesn't have a readout on the actual power. But if it starts beeping, then I know the battery is low and I have to shut the whole system down. But we'll let it keep running because this is an experiment. So the inverter is cooking in the, it is hot in here, by the way, because heat's being generated in this little corner. So the inverter is cooking right there and working fine, running the toaster oven, at least for now. The, man, that's my alarm from, maybe I should run the fan. I'm gonna have to run the fan. We're using more power now, which I didn't want to do, but it's making smoke, obviously. I am going to try to flip this over. You can see the ribs are almost cooked here. It cooks very fast, trying to fry it, you know, or bake fry. I don't know if you call it baking, kind of baking. So I'm flipping it over. Doesn't that look good? Chunk of fat right there. I know fat is bad for you, but I love fat. So we're gonna let this cover again and let it continue to bake. I suspect it'll be done really soon. It's high heat. I could turn it down a little bit, but I'll be having ribs, pork ribs, and white rice for brunch here shortly. So this is where we're at right now. We are both cooking on the, this is a butane cooking system, and the inverter cooking system using solar panels and battery bank on my RV. So I started it at, what, 30 minutes? So it's been 10 minutes, according to that timer. So 10 minutes, the system is still running. Battery is low. It's drawing a lot of power, but not enough to shut off the inverter yet. The good thing about inverters is they generally will shut off and stop working if the battery starts to get too low. It's kind of like a fail-safe, a protection. So that's what I'm counting on to protect my battery bank from draining too low. So when it goes low, the inverter should shut off automatically, in theory. So stay tuned, and I'll keep you guys informed on what happens with this little experiment right here.